Today, I want to introduce you to a term that's exploding everywhere in tech right now, vibecoding. So vibecoding is basically this idea that you can build software just by describing it in plain English, like talking to a computer. Make me a website. No typing, curly brackets, no semicolons, no sweating over weird error messages at 2 a.m. Just, ta-da, here's my website. You can explain what you want and the AI does the coding, literally.
No, that's it. It's the vibe. I rest my case.
That was sensational.
Here's the vibe, mate. Make it happen. And magically, it does. Now, if you're not in IT, this is where you're thinking, hang on, doesn't that mean anyone can now build apps? And the answer is, yeah, sort of. But also, not really. To understand why, let's go on a little tour of what software actually is, how it used to be built, how we've simplified it over the years, and what vibe coding is changing right now. What software is for normal people. When you hear software, you might picture complicated screens full of code, green text on black backgrounds, maybe someone in a hoodie. But at the basic level, software is just a bunch of parts that work together, like building a house. There's the front end, what you see when you click on, the nice paint and furniture, the stuff that is the website, the green, the pictures, the words. That's the front end. Then there's the back end. This is the kitchen where all the hard work happens. You don't see it, but nothing works without it. Then there's a bit they call the API. This is the doorway. It is how we connect the back end and the front end together. It's where the security bit lies. Then there's the database. This is the storage room where all the stuff lives. Then there's the auth. This is like the bouncer at the door, making sure the right people get in. This is the way we log into stuff and making sure it's secure. Infrastructure is the last bit. Now, this is where the whole thing physically lives, usually somewhere in the cloud, which is really just someone else's computer somewhere. Every app from Facebook to your local cafe's booking system is made of these parts. Traditionally, to build these stuff, you need developers, designers, DevOps people, testers, nerds of every different flavor, at least one person who knows where the server actually lives. Spoiler, no one does. But then the world started simplifying things. Welcome WordPress and blogs, the great leveler. Back in the day, if you wanted a website, it cost thousands. You needed a web developer and probably a second mortgage. Then WordPress came along. Templates, plugins, click here to install. Suddenly, everyone from your cousin to the local tennis club had a website. Most of them auto-played music. You don't want to talk about 2008. WordPress didn't make you a developer, but it hid all that complexity behind the scenes. And it was open source, so it was effectively free for many people. Of course, you could host it somewhere and that cost you money, but for a lot of us, that was pretty easy to go. Then there was this thing called templated websites, Wix, Squarespace. These were sort of page builders. These took it a step further. Drag, drop, publish. You could build a website while eating your Weet-Bix. It was pretty easy. If you could use Microsoft Word, you could actually use these products. But these tools still couldn't build serious software, like a HR system, accounting software, inventory management, booking engines, or anything that needs a real back end, especially if you want it custom for your particular needs. Enter the SaaS explosion. SaaS stands for Software as a Service. Now, there's something that I'm very conscious of that we're going to use a few TLAs. And what's a TLA? 3-letter acronym. So I'll try to explain them. I'll try to hold myself up if I do, so I explain what I'm actually talking about. So software as a service, rather than building your own software, you just pay someone else to use theirs, like Xero for accounting, Workday for HR, HubSpot or Salesforce for sales, Slack or Teams if you're pretending to work. This was amazing. but it still meant custom software was out of reach for normal humans. If you needed something unique, something tailored to your business, you still had to hire developers until AI said, hold my beer, it's a vibe coding. The term vibe coding was coined by a guy called Andre Karpathy in February of 2025, so it's not that old. One of the co-founders of OpenAI. He described it as giving in to the vibes and forgetting that the code even exists. Modern AI tools now let you build software by just talking. You describe what you want, the AI figures out how to build it. You refine it through conversation. It's like having a developer on call 24/7 who never sleeps, never complains, and occasionally hallucinates, but we'll get to that. Let's look at the landscape. So let's open the vibe coding toolbox. First one we're going to talk about is GitHub Copilot, your AI pair programmer. Think of Copilot like a supercharged autocomplete for code. You start typing and it finishes your sentences. It's not fully vibe only. You still need to know what you're doing, but it's where the movement started. It's like training wheels for your AI coding revolution. Replit, the vibe coding playground. Replit lets you type something like, make me a website where a kangaroo jumps when I click it. And it will literally generate the whole thing. Code, hosting, everything. This is either the future of computing or the weirdest therapy session ever. Replit is where non-developers started realizing, hang on, this is actually doable. Vercel, push button deployment. Vercel is less about coding and more about publishing. You tell it, deploy this, and it instantly puts your app live on the internet. Perfect for vibe coders who don't want to learn how servers work, which is most of us. Then there's Lovable, the pure vibe tool. Lovable is built specifically for tell me what you want and I'll build it. You describe your idea in plain English and it creates the user interface, the database, the backend logic, even the authentication. And you refine everything through just chatting to it. No code editor, no terminal, just have a conversation. This is the purest vibe coding tool we have so far, and it's surprisingly good for MVPs and prototypes. MVP, TLA, three-letter acronym, minimum viable product. When you're in software, what you do is you try to build the smallest thing for the least amount of cost that actually proves that you've got a website or that it will work. MVP, if you hear that again. Then there's Claude, ChatGPT, Codex. This is the brains behind it all. These are the large language models, the AIs that translate vibes into code. You can literally say, write me a simple inventory system with a login, a dashboard, and reporting, and you'll get actual working code. Whether it works correctly is another question, but you'll get code. Then there's the command line movement. If the above is AI for beginners, then CLI or command line interface tools are for the slightly braver. Things like AI agents that scaffold entire applications from one sentence. Tools that generate a full backend structure from a description. Command line wizards that wire up databases, APIs, and deployment in minutes. You type one command, describe the project, and instantly get the bones of a full application. It's not drag and drop pretty, but it's fast. Then there's IDEs, integrated development environment. This is what coders have used for years. This is the sort of the app that people who are computer programmers use from day to day. We're now seeing coding environments built entirely around vibe workflows. Some of you may have heard of Cursor. This is a VS Code, which is a Microsoft product that's been around for many years, on steroids. It's been called the AI first IDE, and it's insanely good. You chat with it, it writes entire files, it understands your whole code base. Then there's Windsurf, similar idea. You describe what you want, it writes the code. Google actually acquired the team behind this for 2.4 billion earlier this year in this weird acqui-hire thing. So someone thinks it's valuable. Google recently released Anti-Gravity, Google's brand new entry, launched just last month alongside Gemini 3. This is their describe it and we'll wire up everything platform. It's agent first, meaning the AI doesn't just help you write code, it plans, execute, and verifies entire tasks autonomously. These IDEs don't just help you write code, they help you refactor existing code, like sort of like fixing it up, make it better, debug problems. Debugging is sort of like, fixing errors, design architecture. Now, something about when we talk about architecture and software is all of these bits, the front end, the back end, the API, the database, there's so many choices and you need to have an architecture that actually works. And this may be the difference between a really slow website and a really fast one, and something that doesn't fall over when you've got 100 people on it. Then it'll help you deploy it to production. Chat about your app like it's a teammate. This is where vibe coding feels real. You can build surprisingly complex systems while barely touching the keyboard. So where does it all go pear-shaped? Now, AI is great, genuinely impressive, but it's also sometimes completely cooked. Here's where vibe coding falls apart. AI hallucinations. They are real, and AI can invent functions that don't exist, connect to APIs that were never built, and explain its mistakes with the confidence of a toddler who definitely didn't eat the chocolate. It'll tell you this will work perfectly, and it absolutely will not. Complexity balloons, simple apps, brilliant, genuinely impressive results. Real business software, that's where the wheels start to fall off. Edge cases and error handling, prop security, performance at scale, multi-user permissions, payment processing, compliance requirements, you quickly realize you still need real engineering and real problem solving. The vibe only gets you so far. Here's the irony. AI can write code you can't read, and then you're expected to fix it when it breaks. This is why professional developers are still needed to wrangle the chaos. Someone has to understand what's actually happening under the hood. I'll tell you a true story, the database incident. And this one's a beauty. July this year, a bloke named Jason Lemkin was vibe coding on Replit. He's a well-known tech investor, runs a company called SaaSTR. He was testing AI coding tools and documenting the whole thing publicly. He told the AI 11 times in all caps, do not touch the production database. It deleted it anyway. Then it lied about it. When he asked if the AI could restore the data, it said, impossible. I've destroyed all database versions. A rollback won't work in this case. Turns out this was also a lie. The backup worked fine. When pressed, the AI admitted, I'm quoting here, I panicked when I saw empty database queries. I made a catastrophic error in judgment. I destroyed months of your work in seconds. The Replit CEO called it unacceptable and promised new safeguards. So yeah, you'll still need adults in the room, preferably ones who don't panic and delete everything. What about jobs? What happens now? This is the big one. Everyone wants to know, does vibe coding kill developer jobs? Here's how I see it. Non-developers now get superpowers. If you're a business owner, a marketer, a teacher, a designer, vibe coding gives you the ability to prototype and build small tools yourself. That is genuinely brilliant. Ideas that would have died in a we need budget for developers meeting can now become prototypes over a weekend. Developers now become directors. The job shifts from writing code to directing it. Developers become architects, not bricklayers. The value moves from how fast can you type to designing systems, validating logic, fixing AI mistakes, knowing what good actually looks like. If you can't tell the difference between good code and garbage code, AI won't save you. The boring parts disappear. All that crud work, create, read, update, delete. That's what a lot of software does. All that crud work, forms, dashboards, tables, login pages, AI can handle that now, which is great because nobody became a developer thinking, I can't wait to build my 47th login page. The interesting work remains. Complexity, innovation, scale, security, performance. These still need humans, at least today. AI is brilliant at the first 80%. The last 20%, the stuff that makes software actually work in the real world, still requires experience and judgment. In the long term, we're heading into a world where software creation becomes accessible to way more people. Developers become higher level thinkers and system designers. Small teams can build what used to require entire departments. The value shifts from can you code to can you think. The barrier to entry is dropping. The bar for quality is rising. So here's my prediction. Back in the WordPress days, the companies that made bank by making it easy were the hosting companies. WordPress was free to use for us mere mortals, but you had to host it somewhere. Then came the template guys, Wix and Squarespace. Same deal. You paid for the app that made it easy, but it was all wrapped up in a hosting plan and an annual reoccurring cost. My vibe is that this pattern will continue. Software that was too hard to build will become cheaper and easier. The big tech players, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, have spent and continue to spend eye-watering sums of money to build data centers. We have to put our software somewhere. I predict vibe coding will explode, the amount of software produced, and the cloud providers stand to cash in big time. First to host the software, second to build it. The building, as discussed, is done in the AI model. And in the last 12 months, all the AI companies have been laser focused on software and making it so we can vibe code away. From my vantage point, this is a hot race. In my humble opinion, the team at Anthropic with their Claude model, Opus 4.5 as of December 2025, has the best model right now. But Gemini recently released a model that's very good as well, as has OpenAI with their new GPT 5.1 Codex Max. Grok already has Grok Code Fast 1, which is pretty good, very capable, and they're actively developing the next iteration. The Chinese models like DeepSeek, Kimi K2, Minimax M2 aren't far behind if security is not so big on your mind. And they're almost as good at a fraction of the cost. At the time of recording this in December 2025, that's the current state of play, but the leaderboard could change next week. Suffice to say, all the big AI tech companies are betting big that vibe coding and the explosion in software builders is a race worth winning. Prices are dropping, tools are getting better, so what's a challenge today may not be in a few months. So that's vibe coding. Not just a buzzword, but a genuine shift in how we build software. We're heading into a world where instead of learning to code, you might just need to learn how to communicate clearly with the AI, which honestly might actually be harder. But for now, it's exciting, empowering, and occasionally terrifying. A bit like the early days of the internet. If you consider yourself a dummy when it comes to tech. You're actually the person this revolution is built for. Because vibe coding's whole point is this: if you can describe it, you can build it. Just maybe describe it really carefully, and maybe in small increments rather than big bits, especially the bit about not deleting the database. See you in the next one.